Well, stocks turning negative late this afternoon after the Trump administration unveiled the tax plan. Joining me now to discuss is FiscalTimes.com columnist Liz Peek. So any connection at all between the late day, it wasn't a swoon really, but downturn in the market and a tax plan?
Well, I think the old adage is buy on the rumors, sell on the news. Once the plan was actually out there, and it's an exciting plan full of ambitious measures, then everybody starts taking pot shots at it. The news headlines are full of this person doesn't think it can work, this person doesn't think it'll go through. Now the hard work begins. But in my view, David, honestly, this is the biggest challenge for Donald Trump as president to date. He has to sell this to the American people because guess what? Democrats are going to resist it. Some in the Republican Party are going to resist it because, you know, the estimates of what kind of bump you're going to get in the deficit are pretty significant.
Right. But is the resistance and the emergence of that resistance, because we began hearing it late afternoon, is that what led to market concerns? At first they were ecstatic, oh boy, we won't have to pay as much in taxes, and then they thought, yeah, we probably won't get all of it through. It
threw cold water on all those wonderful estimates of how much, you know, increased growth was going to look like, et cetera. Look, the market is not cheap, and everybody knows that. We have seen good earnings growth. In fact, the most promising thing is that estimates for earnings growth have gone up about 8 weeks in a row. Every time there's a bunch of earnings releases, they go up again. There are many signs that global growth has begun to accelerate, thanks in large part to some recovery in China. So there's a lot of good news out there. And by the way, the growth in earnings right now in the United States is not being fed by corporate stock buybacks. It's actually earnings growth. And that's a kind of a big deal because we've seen a lot of reasons why the stock market's gone higher in recent years, stock buybacks, the Fed lowering interest rates, et cetera. This looks like the economy is actually moving. And in part, let's face it, it's moving because Donald Trump was elected president. About 2 weeks later, the IMF raised global growth rates. They've done it again in the last 2 weeks because of consumer optimism, because of business optimism.
We've got a pro-business administration in power, and he's going to push some of that through. Final question, because a lot of people do buy taxes, or at least indexes, on the basis of whether there's going to be real tax reform. And what we've learned tonight by talking to some experts before you here is that this is going to take a long time. It's got to go through committees. Obviously the lobbyists are going to lobby against it. Should we wait for the actual, do you think there's going to be a pullback in the market because it's going to take so long to get this thing through and then get into the market?
It wouldn't be surprising because, as you also probably have discussed, there are some interim measures. There still is going to be a fight over health care. There still is going to be a fight over the budget. So, yeah, it's not going to be easy, but when Mnuchin said it will be done by year end or first quarter at the latest, which I think you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, you know what, that looks pretty promising to me.